What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you want to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Alright, can you do that for me?
You got it. I'll grab you one from each type, right on the cusp of becoming a dragon lord.
As she explained, dragons derived from that original spirit dragon came in just 4 types. At the top of the pyramid, you had your earth, water, fire, and wind dragon lords, with the element-infused dragons below them. They also came in 4 types, known as earth dragons, frost dragons, fire dragons, and wind dragons, respectively. The sky dragon Rimuru tangled with was a rarer case, a would-be evolution into a wind dragon that missed the mark for some reason. There was no sky type to these guys, unlike with elemental spirits, although there were other variations and special types, little things that occasionally made the resulting dragon unique, kind of like with humans. This sounded like the perfect engine for giving our labyrinth some nature-based spice. Let's put those dragons in the deeper floors once Milim picks them up. These element-infused dragons, by the way, were stronger than offshoots like the Sky Dragon, maybe a special A in terms of ranking, not a match for Charybdis, but still packing a big punch. I hadn't really thought about it, but I supposed one of those rarer offshoots would be a good, even match for 6 paladins. Upgrade that to an element-infused one, and you'd need a whole Crusader platoon to stand a chance, apparently. But hey, this is my dungeon, and I get to decide what goes in there. With spirits, the 5 elemental attributes work like this. Earth is strong against sky, sky against wind, wind against water, water against fire, and fire against earth. This, however, didn't apply to dragons. Battle experience was more important than elemental attributes. In essence, older dragons were stronger than younger ones. As a result, I decided to order the elemental floors like so. Floor 99, Fiery Hellscape. The final challenge, encased in raging flames. Fire-resistant equipment is a must. What could be waiting beyond? Floor 98, Icy Grave. Keep moving or die instantly. Will your cold-resistant equipment be able to save you from this? Floor 97, Electric Skies. Lightning rains down from above. Only luck can decide whether you'll survive or get singed. Floor 96, Raging Earth. A punishing quake sorely tests anyone who makes it this far down. Behold the blind rage of the dragon. These 4 element-themed floors would serve as the last challenge before the final boss, Veldora himself. It was perfect. Rimuru saw absolutely no way anyone could beat it.
Not bad, Rimuru.
Placing those half-breeds ahead of me. I imagine you're trying to put adventurers off their guard with those also-rans before encountering my full might.
Aw, why does Veldora get the coolest part? You ought to put me in as that final boss thing from time to time.
All 3 seemed to like the concept. Good to see, but they still needed to get those dragons worked out for it. Flattering Milim ought to ensure she'll get the job done.
You've already got a vital role in this, Milim. If it wasn't for you, this final set of traps never would have existed.
He's right, Milim.
Exclaimed Ramirez, probably picking up on Rimuru's intention.
I really hope you can get some strong, mean-looking dragons for us.
No problem, guys.
She looked motivated enough. That was good. If Rimuru had the dragons, he had the traps he wanted, and the way Milim described it, the dragons would do all the interior decoration work for Rimuru. Not long after, Milim set off to capture the dragons, the latest members of Ramirez's rapidly expanding band of underlings. A few days after Milim's sudden visit, Rimuru had the traps set up across all the floors. The only thing left to do was wait for Milim to come back with those dragons.
Man, Beretta and Trainee, you guys did a hell of a job.
Oh, no.
Beretta said, taking a step back and being modest as usual.
This is all for you and Lady Ramirez.
Exactly.
Said a beaming trainee.
It is a joy to work for the sake of my master.
Ramirez herself was sitting on Trainee's shoulder, and Trainee looked ready to carry out nearly any order she gave her. That wrapped up the bulk of the work.
By the way, Sir Rimuru, I still have these with me.
But then Beretta took out a unique class weapon and armor set.
Those?
I received them from a golem in the service of Clayman. I was unable to give them to you earlier, but I thought, perhaps, they would make good loot for a treasure chest or 2.
Oh, right. Clayman's greatest masterpiece, or whatever it was. Viola, I think was the name. Beretta stripped all the weapons from it, and he meant to present them to me, but I turned them down. He wanted to pay me off with that stuff so they could move here, after all, and I wasn't up for that.
Weren't you going to offer that stuff to Ramirez?
Haha.
Ramirez said, butting in.
There's no way I could use it right, and I don't really care about it anyway. I think it's a pretty fancy piece of weaponry, but that's about it, not much else you can do with it. So I talked to Beretta to see if we could make better use of it.
Are you sure about this? Because it'd be worth a lot if you sold it.
It's fine. All part of my job. And I'm gonna make a ton of money before long, so why quibble over the little stuff? Besides, we finally have somewhere to live.
So the weapon and armor were mine, and thus, I decided to put them to work for me. It was time to put the treasure chests in place and see how the labyrinth was shaping up. From floor 1 on down, we checked our work. That topmost floor was kind of a demo of things to come. Rimuru made it so even beginners could proceed without too much hassle. The chamber and its hallways were broad, wide, and hard to get lost in. Still, 800 feet to a side was big. Rimuru worried that people would spend all afternoon mapping out every nook and cranny, only to be rewarded with nothing. That might cause people to start dissing the maze, but with all the weak monsters prowling around, Rimuru figured there'd be enough excitement for everyone. The magic crystals and other useful stuff they dropped would make it worth novice adventurers' time. He intended to buy this loot from those adventurers. There wasn't a free guild post in Tempest, so the nearest one would be Blumen's. Going all the way there could be a tall order for some people, so Rimuru thought they could function as a pseudo-guild, accepting their loot for discount prices and pocketing the difference to cover expenses. Or could I talk with Yuki about building an official guild post here? Maybe, but until that came up, we'd kind of function as them with this labyrinth. This was the basic scheme of things up to floor 5. The mazes gradually got trickier, but otherwise, no difference. Floor 6, though, is where things got tough. The traps would make their debut here, although nothing truly vicious up to floor 9, so nobody would die from them, probably. A seasoned adventurer would cruise past them. If Rimuru made things too hard too fast, it'd discourage repeat traffic, and that was out of the question. He wanted to be kind with the first 9 floors' design. That all changed with floor 10. Here, Rimuru placed a single monster who was, shall we say, kind of strong. In other words, this was a boss room. Defeat it, and a door would open to the floors below.
What kind of monster did you go with, Rimuru?
Asked Ramirez.
I'll decide on that once I see how these guys are spawning, but we haven't seen any so far, have we?
No, we had yet to encounter a single monster, all the way down to floor 10. Veldora released his aura a week and a half ago, but it still hadn't resulted in any baddies.
Understood. Even with his aura hidden, monsters can still detect the presence of the subject Veldora. Few would want to approach him.
Oh, I see.
I guess monsters born from the magicules you released can pick up on his presence. They're too scared to go near him.
What? So that's why.
Said Veldora, convinced.
No wonder I never saw many in my presence inside the cave I was sealed in.
I think it's more like the weaker monsters literally couldn't take the heat from him. But regardless.
Well, I'll figure something out. One way or another, I want just a kinda strong monster in here, ranked B or thereabouts.
Alright, I don't want any unintelligent beings among my lackeys, but if you find the right monster, bring it in here and put this collar on it.
Rimuru accepted the collar, which apparently let the wearer be resurrected even if they hadn't forged a formal pact with Ramirez. That helped a lot. It meant Rimuru didn't have to find a replacement every time someone killed the guy.
Wow, convenient. That'll save us a lot of trouble.
Right? Remember, in this labyrinth, what I say goes.
It probably did, too. Her skill let her change the effects of pretty much any item in here. Rimuru realized once again how much of a pity it was that he couldn't learn it for himself. That took care of the boss issue. The boss room formed the entirety of floor 10, making it perfectly safe after the battle was over. Beyond the room lay a save point and a simple stairway down. And let's not forget about the treasure chest. The one in the boss room had no trap installed, but I did carefully adjust the rates at which you'd find certain weapons or armor inside. In subsequent floors, however, there'd be both hidden chambers and chest traps. Mimics would debut in floor 20 and below, pretty diabolical, but that's the thrill of a labyrinth like this. Being able to experience something like this in real life was something I thought I deserved praise for. But it wasn't all threatening stuff. With abundant magicules all over the labyrinth, the swords and lances found inside could start to get a bit magical themselves. Getting your hands on stuff like that was worth risking your neck a little, Rimuru thought. With a resurrection bracelet, nobody was going to die, so he figured revving up the difficulty would make it more fun and exciting. Rimuru couldn't wait to see how the adventurers would react to all this. Finally, they wrapped up their inspection of the first 10 floors.
Well, now what? Should we set up someplace on this floor where you can sell the stuff you found or put it in storage for safekeeping?
Oh, do we really need that? Because then we wouldn't be able to sell any return whistles.
Ah, right. Ramirez actually had a great point. She was always sharp with issues related to money, I guess.
True. Not much point putting ones up in floors with save points. How about safe zones starting in the middle dungeons, say one every 5 levels?
Ooh, that could work.
They could offer storage for items found, sell healing potions at marked up prices, and offer some simple fare to eat. The labyrinth could have doors at regular levels that connected to a single zone, so they wouldn't need to construct separate zones all across the maze. It wouldn't be that much work to implement. Would more people opt to go outside when they needed a break, though? It'd depend, I suppose. Return whistles were meant as insurance, after all, so maybe they could price them on the higher side. Rimuru decided to reconsider that once this labyrinth made its debut. As they chatted about this or that labyrinth-related issue, they continued to inspect each floor, and as they checked out all the little details, the labyrinth slowly approached completion. Finally, we were done with the 100th floor, generally satisfied with ourselves. To be frank, the complete labyrinth ventured far beyond mere viciousness.
Based on the skills of the average adventurer, low-level monsters and a labyrinth would provide enough of a difficulty level. Adding crafty traps and a legion of upper-level monsters, the term vicious seems rather tepid a description.
Sorry? I didn't hear that. Raphael sounded a bit exasperated with me, but I'm sure, of course, that I was just imagining it. I'd learn not much later that I definitely wasn't imagining it. Between working out monster placement and boss setups, I suddenly realized that the labyrinth was now full of monsters. Tons of them.
What in the?
Well, too late now. This difficulty balancing work wound up biting me in the ass, which I suppose I deserved. But no worries. It's important to leave little mistakes like this behind you. There was still plenty left to do, but Rimuru decided to leave the rest to Veldora and Ramirez, who were now even further motivated. Milam was kind enough to fetch those dragons she offered to bring in, and they released them on the appropriate floors, adjusting the atmospheric magicule count as needed. The dragons helped cull the excessive numbers of monsters being generated, too. They still only had their bosses worked out down to floor 30, but that would do for now. The Colosseum up top was still under construction, but the framework was getting completed at speeds Rimuru couldn't believe. It should be done in time for the Founders Festival, once the snow thawed. The labyrinth below, meanwhile, was turning into a more splendid attraction than Rimuru had guessed. You needed to buy a resurrection bracelet to enter, but once you got one, Rimuru was sure you'd be addicted. Hopefully it would remain one of our city's main draws as long as I hoped. There were still a lot of ideas left to implement, but for now, this was fine. Rimuru flashed an evil grin at the others, sharing a nod with them. They had their labyrinth all prepped and ready. Before long, their town started to see some new faces. The snow was melting away, and once it did, they began to see visitors from all over traveling to the forest of Jura. The Founders Festival was near.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to Michael, Neil Thakkar, Ashley Lobo, Jake Ram, Anshu Mishra, Sean, Swarup Sagar, Rudra Vishnoy, Scratch Good 3, God's Retribution, Crazy Indian Gamer, Super Omega Prime MK2, Chadvota, Yusef BTR, Big Man Saucy, and last but not the least, shout out to Vignesh. I'll see you guys in the next video.